When the doorbell rang, my heart stopped, just like it did that night 20 years ago. Rain was tapping against the window. The wind howled, echoing through the silence of my lonely house. So many years had passed that I thought I could only hear that sound in my dreams, until that knock came again. My name is Amara. I'm 63 years old. My life has drifted on in a long, gray silence. My neighbors know me as the woman who checks her mailbox at the same hour every morning. But they don't know that every time I walk down to that mailbox, a part of me is still waiting for something. That night was ordinary. I had brewed my tea, and an old blues song played softly on the radio. Then came that sound. Knock, knock, knock. At first I froze. No one had knocked on my door in years. Not even the doorbell rang anymore. My steps grew heavy. As I approached the door, my heart wasn't just beating, it was pounding like a hammer in my chest. When I reached for the handle, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the glass. An old, tired woman, but with eyes filled with a trembling kind of hope. I opened the door, and in that instant, time stopped. The face before me was the same one that had haunted my nightmares for years. It was my husband, but that couldn't be, because I had buried him with my own hands. As the rain poured in through the open doorway, the past came rushing back inside. The man standing there was Henry, the husband I had laid to rest 20 years ago. His face was pale, almost as if he had just crawled out of the grave. His jacket was caked with mud, his lips were blue, his eyes hollow. But that look, that sharp, familiar gaze, it was still the same. "Amara," he said. Hearing that voice was like watching a nightmare pick up where it had left off. Every memory I had buried for 20 years shattered through the walls of my mind. I would never forget that night. I had a shovel in my hands. It was raining. Henry lay motionless on the ground, and with every swing of the shovel, I cried a little more. Everyone thought he had disappeared in the storm, but I never told anyone the truth, because that night I didn't just bury my husband, I buried my fear. But now, that fear was standing right in front of me again. You're dead, Henry. The words trembled out of my mouth. Henry lowered his head. I know. Those two words changed the air in the entire house. The wind stopped. The clock froze. The only sound was his breathing, heavy, earthy, cold as the grave itself. He took a step forward. "May I come in, Amara?" In that moment, my mind split in two. One side screamed, "Run." The other whispered, "Understand." And that curiosity, the same one that had led me into every disaster 20 years ago, won again. I opened the door a little wider. Raindrops trickled down onto the threshold. Henry stepped inside, and that's when I realized what had entered wasn't just a man. It was my buried past, and some pasts never stay buried. Henry stood in my living room like a ghost learning to be human again. Water dripped from his coat onto the hardwood floor, the same floor where we danced on our wedding night 43 years ago. Each drop echoed in the silence, marking time I thought I'd buried. "You're shaking," he said, his voice rougher than I remembered, like gravel mixed with rust. I was. My hands trembled so badly I had to clasp them together. "What do you want from me?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he drifted toward the mantel where our wedding photo still sat, gathering dust for 2 decades. His finger traced the frame, leaving a smudge of dirt. "I want you to understand," he finally said. "Understand what?" My voice cracked. "That I'm losing my mind? That you're some kind of hallucination brought on by guilt?" He turned to face me, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes that wasn't there 20 years ago. Sadness. Deep, ocean floor sadness. "You didn't kill me, Amara." The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt my knees buckle and I grabbed the back of the sofa to steady myself. "Don't," I whispered. "Don't you dare rewrite history. I was there. I did it. The shovel, the rain, the woods behind Miller's farm. I know what you remember," he interrupted, taking a step closer. "But memory can be a liar, a very convincing one. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to wake up. But instead, I just stood there, staring at this impossible man in my living room." "Then what happened that night?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "If I didn't kill you, Henry, where have you been for 20 years? He sat down in his old chair, the leather one I could never bring myself to throw away. The cushion sank under his weight, proving he was real enough to occupy space, real enough to destroy the fragile peace I'd built. "That's a long story," he said, leaning back, "and you might not believe it. Try me." I was surprised by the steadiness in my voice. After opening the door to a dead man, I think my threshold for disbelief is pretty high. A ghost of a smile crossed his face, the same half smile that had made me fall in love with him at 19. Then it vanished. "It started 3 weeks before that night," he began. "I'd been having dreams. Strange ones. A woman would appear standing at the edge of the woods, beckoning me, night after night. She never spoke, just called to me somehow. I felt a chill run down my spine. What woman? I didn't know then. But I started researching. Old town records, newspaper archives from the library basement. And I found something, Amara, something about our house. Our house. The Victorian we'd bought for a steal because no one else wanted it. The realtor said it had been vacant for years, I said slowly. "Vacant for 12 years, Henry confirmed. "But before that?" "A woman named Catherine Brennan lived here, alone, until the night she disappeared in 1983. The date hit me like ice water. "That was 2 years before we moved in," he finished. "They never found her body. The case went cold. But I found her diary, Amara, hidden in the attic behind the insulation you always said you'd replace." I remembered that attic, dark, musty, filled with shadows that seemed to move on their own. I'd only gone up there once, and I'd felt such overwhelming dread that I'd never returned. What did the diary say? Henry's face darkened. That she'd found something in the woods. Something old. Something that had been waiting. Waiting for what? For someone to let it in. The lights flickered, just for a second, but long enough for my heart to skip. "Henry, you're scaring me." "Good," he said, and there was no comfort in his tone. "You should be scared. Because that night, 20 years ago, when you think you killed me, you didn't. You couldn't have, because I was already gone." "What are you talking about?" He stood up, and I noticed for the first time that his shadow on the wall didn't quite match his movements. It lagged just a fraction of a second behind. "The thing Catherine found?" "It took her. And that night in the rain, when I went into those woods looking for answers..." He paused, his eyes meeting mine with an intensity that made me want to look away. "It took me too. Then who..." My voice died in my throat. "Who did you bury?" Henry finished my question. "That's what we need to find out. Because whatever it was, whatever you put in that grave..." He moved toward the window, staring out at the rain-soaked darkness. "I think it's waking up." The clock on the wall suddenly stopped ticking. In the silence that followed, I heard it. A sound from beneath the floorboards. A scraping, like something trying to claw its way up from below. Henry turned to me, his face pale even in the dim light. "How deep did you dig, Amara?" 6 feet, I whispered. "Maybe 7. And the grave? Where exactly?" behind Miller's old farm. In the clearing where the 3 oak trees, I stopped. My blood ran cold. What? Henry pressed. What is it? There were no oak trees there when I went to check on it. 5 years ago. I went back to make sure no one had found it, and my hands began to shake again. The trees were gone. All 3 of them. Just stumps. Rotted stumps like they'd been dead for decades. Henry's expression shifted from concern to terrified. Show me. What? Show me where you buried it. Tonight. Right now. Henry, it's pouring rain. It's pitch dark. Amara. He grabbed my shoulders and his hands were ice cold through my sweater. Whatever you put in that grave isn't staying there. It's been getting out, little by little. And if we don't stop it now, it's going to finish what it started 20 years ago. What did it start? He released me and walked to the door, grabbing the handle. Then he looked back, and in his eyes I saw something I'd never seen before. Absolute certainty in the face of the impossible. The end of everything you know to be real. We drove in silence through sheets of rain that turned the windshield into a waterfall. My old sedan's headlights barely cut through the darkness, illuminating only brief snapshots of the road ahead. Henry sat in the passenger seat, the same seat he'd occupied on countless drives to nowhere, back when we'd been happy, or at least when I'd thought we were happy. Take the next left, he said. I know the way. My voice was sharper than I intended. I've driven this route 1,000 times in my nightmares. Miller's farm had been abandoned for 30 years. Old Jim Miller had died in '95, and his kids wanted nothing to do with the property. The house had collapsed in on itself, and nature had begun reclaiming what humans had taken. But the land remained, 40 acres of woods, fields, and secrets. The car bounced along the overgrown driveway, branches scraped against the windows like skeletal fingers. When we reached the clearing where the farmhouse once stood, I killed the engine. For a moment, neither of us moved. Last time I was here, I said quietly, it was also raining. What do you remember about that night, Amara? Exactly? I closed my eyes. The memory was burned into my brain with perfect, horrible clarity. You'd been acting strange for weeks. Distant. You'd stay up all night, staring out the window. You'd taken to walking in the woods at odd hours. That night, you said you had to check on something. You took the car keys, but I grabbed them back. I told you that you weren't going anywhere in that storm. And then, you got angry. You'd never been angry like that before. It was like looking at a stranger. You pushed me and I fell, hit my head on the kitchen counter. My hand unconsciously moved to the scar hidden beneath my hair. When I got up, you were gone. Out the door, running toward the woods. Henry was silent, watching me. I followed you, I continued. I was terrified you'd hurt yourself. The storm was getting worse. Lightning everywhere. I found you in the clearing, digging. Just digging with your bare hands in the mud. And when you saw me... My voice broke. You said, it's time. She's calling. Then you turned back to the hole and kept digging. What happened next? I tried to pull you away. To stop you. But you were so strong. Stronger than you'd ever been. You shoved me and I fell into the mud. That's when I saw the shovel. It was lying there, like someone had left it for me. And when you came at me again, your eyes... I opened my eyes and looked at Henry. Your eyes were black. Completely black. No white, no color, just void. Henry nodded slowly as if this confirmed something he'd suspected. So I grabbed the shovel, I whispered, and I swung. How many times? Once. Just once. You went down so fast, too fast, and the sound... I shuddered. I'll never forget that sound. Then you just stopped. Stopped moving, stopped breathing, stopped being. And the hole I'd been digging? I finished it, deepened it, put you in it, covered you up, and I've spent every day since wondering if I'm a monster. Henry reached over and took my hand. His was still cold, but there was something comforting in the gesture. "You're not a monster," he said. "You were protecting yourself from something that wore my face." "Then where were you?" I demanded, pulling my hand back. "If that wasn't you in the ground, where the hell were you?" He pointed through the windshield toward the tree line. "In there. In the between place. Where Catherine went. Where others have gone. Trapped." "Trapped by what?" "By something that should never have been disturbed." He opened the car door, and rain immediately swept in. "Come on, we need to see what's left in that grave." I'd brought 2 flashlights from home, though neither seemed particularly effective against the darkness that pressed in from all sides. We made our way through the undergrowth, following a path I'd walked in my dreams more times than I could count. "There," I said, pointing, "under where the oak trees used to be." But something was wrong. The clearing was different, larger than I remembered, and in the center, where I'd buried what I thought was Henry's body, the ground had sunken in, not like a grave settling over time, like something had been extracted from below. "Oh God," I whispered. Henry walked to the depression and knelt down, shining his flashlight into the muddy hollow. "It's open." "What?" "The grave." Something dug it up, from the inside. I stumbled forward, my flashlight beam joining his. He was right. The earth had been pushed outward, not dug inward, like something had burst free from its burial place. 20 years, Henry said, his voice tight. "It's been 20 years. That's how long it needed." "For what?" "To finish transforming, to become solid enough to exist fully in this world." He stood up, scanning the tree line. "Catherine disappeared 21 years before I did. There's a pattern, a cycle. Henry, you're not making sense. Don't you see?" He grabbed my shoulders again, forcing me to look at him. It takes someone, wears them, learns from them. Then, after 20 years, it's strong enough to let them go and take another. Catherine in 83, me in 2005, and now... A branch snapped behind us. We both spun around, flashlights sweeping through the rain and darkness. For a moment, nothing. Just the sound of water hitting leaves, the distant rumble of thunder. Then I saw it. A figure standing at the edge of the clearing. Too tall, too still, watching us. "Amara," it said in my voice. Perfect, exact. Down to the slight rasp I developed from years of smoking in my 20s. My flashlight beam found its face, and I felt my sanity begin to crack. It was me, or rather it looked like me. But the eyes were wrong, empty, black from edge to edge. "You came back," the thing wearing my face said. "I've been waiting." Henry stepped in front of me, but I could feel him trembling. "How long have you been out?" The not me tilted its head. "Long enough. I've been practicing, learning, watching the real Amara through windows, following her to the post office, the grocery store, getting ready." "Ready for what?" I managed to ask. It smiled, my smile, but all wrong. "To take her place completely. The way I took Henry's, the way I took Catherine's. 20 years is the gestation period. That's how long it takes to fully absorb a life. But I'm ahead of schedule this time." It took a step closer. "I've been digging myself out slowly over the past 5 years, a little at a time, testing this world. And now, another step. Now I'm ready for the transfer." "Transfer?" Henry asked. "She buried me." That creates a bond, a connection. And on the 20th anniversary, which is tonight in case you've forgotten, I can finally complete what was started. The not me's eyes focused on me with predatory intensity. I go into the world fully. And you, Amara, you take my place in the between. My legs wouldn't move. Terror had turned my muscles to stone. "Unless," it continued, "you can answer a question." The same question Catherine couldn't answer. The same question Henry couldn't answer. "What question?" I whispered. The not-me spread its arms wide. "What is my name?" Silence. Even the rain seemed to pause. "That's the bargain," it said. "Name me truly and I return to where I came from. Fail and we swap. Forever." Henry turned to me, his face desperate. "Amara, in all the research I did, in Catherine's diary, there was a name. Something old. Something from before the town was founded. Before the farm. Before any of this." "What was it?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "I can't remember," he said, anguish in his voice. "I've been in the between for 20 years. Memories fade there. Everything fades except the fear and the cold." The not-me laughed, my laugh, but hollow. "Time's up in 60 seconds. Name me or take my place. Choose." My mind raced. Catherine's diary, the research Henry had done, the woods, the farm. What had been here before? Then I remembered something. A story my grandmother had told me once about the land this farm was built on, about the indigenous people who'd lived here centuries ago, about a spirit they'd sealed away with sacred stones and careful words, about something they'd called the Thief of Faces. But that wasn't its true name. That was just what they'd called it. 50 seconds, the not-me said. What had Grandma said? Something in her own language, a word I'd heard only once, as a child, and had never forgotten because of how it made me feel, like spiders crawling under my skin. 40 seconds. I closed my eyes, reaching back through decades of memory. I was 7 years old again, sitting in Grandma's kitchen, smelling cornbread baking. She was telling me why we never went into the woods after dark. 30 seconds. The word was there, just out of reach. It started with a sound like wind through dead trees, a syllable that hurt to think about. 20 seconds. Henry gripped my hand. "Whatever happens, I need you to know I never stopped loving you, even in the between, even when I forgot my own name. I remembered loving you." 10 seconds. The word erupted from my memory like a dam breaking. I opened my eyes and spoke it. The syllables were ugly, ancient, and as they left my mouth, they tasted like grave dirt and broken promises. The not-me froze. Its expression shifted from confidence to shock to rage. "You?" it hissed. "How could you possibly?" "My grandmother," I said, strength returning to my voice. "She was from the Lenape people, the ones who lived here first, the ones who knew what you were. And she taught me your name, even if I didn't understand why until now." The thing wearing my face began to change. The features melted, running like wax. Beneath was something else, something without a face at all, just darkness given form with those terrible black eyes staring from a void where a head should be. "The bargain is sealed," Henry said, stepping forward. "You're named. You must return." "No!" the thing screamed, and its voice was everyone and no one, a chorus of the taken. "I've been here for 300 years. I will not be sealed again. I will not—" The ground beneath it began to crack. Light. Not clean white light, but something older, red as blood and twice as thick, poured through the fissures. The thing reached for me, its formless arms stretching impossibly long. Henry pulled me back just as those arms would have grabbed me. They passed through the space where I'd been standing, and where they touched the air, reality itself seemed to tear. "We need to close the seal," Henry shouted over the thing screaming. "The stones!" "Where are the stones?" "What stones?" "The ones the Lenape used. They must still be here. Look around the clearing." I spun, my flashlight beam sweeping across the ground. There, half buried in mud and leaves, stones marked with symbols I couldn't read but somehow understood. There were 4 of them positioned at the cardinal points around the clearing. "Help me!" I yelled to Henry. We ran to the nearest stone. It was heavy, far heavier than it should have been, but together we managed to lift it. The moment we did, the screaming intensified. We carried it to the edge of the depression where the grave had been and dropped it in place. 1 down, 3 to go. The second stone was easier. Adrenaline and desperation can make you strong in ways you never knew. As we placed it opposite the first, I felt a shift in the air. The thing screaming changed pitch, becoming less enraged and more afraid. Good. "Faster!" Henry urged. Rain plastered his hair to his skull, making him look even more like the ghost I'd first thought he was. The third stone was buried deeper than the others. We had to dig with our hands, the mud thick and cold beneath our fingernails. All the while, the faceless thing thrashed in the center of the clearing, its form becoming less solid as the seal's power grew. "Almost there," I grunted, my fingers finally closing around carved stone. "Help me pull." Together, we wrenched it free. As we carried it to its position, the thing's form began to fold in on itself, collapsing like a building imploding. Its screams were no longer sounds, but rather vibrations in the air, in my teeth, in my bones. "One more," Henry shouted. "Where's the 4th? We searched frantically. The clearing was larger than I'd remembered, and in the chaos of rain and darkness and supernatural horror, everything looked the same. "There," I pointed to a spot near the tree line. "I see it!" But so did the thing. Even as it collapsed, even as it was being pulled back into whatever hell it had come from, it sent one last tendril of darkness toward that final stone. If it could stop us from placing it, the seal would remain incomplete. We ran. Henry reached it first, but the tendril wrapped around his ankle, yanking him backward. He fell hard, his head hitting a tree root with a sickening thud. "Henry!" I dove for the stone. My hands closed around it just as another tendril lashed toward me. It wrapped around my wrist, and the cold that shot through my arm was like being plunged into Arctic water. Not just physical cold, but the cold of absence, the cold of the void. I saw things in that cold. Faces, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all the people it had taken over the centuries, all the lives it had stolen and worn like suits. Catherine Brennan was there, her eyes wide with perpetual terror. Others, too, some wearing clothes from decades ago, some from centuries past. Native peoples, settlers, travelers, all trapped in the between. "Amara!" Henry's voice, weak but insistent. "The stone!" "Place it." I couldn't move. The cold was spreading up my arm, into my shoulder, toward my chest. If it reached my heart, I knew I would join those faces in the void. Then I remembered something else Grandma had told me about how the old powers, the things that existed before civilization, they fed on fear. They needed it the way we needed air. So I stopped being afraid. It wasn't easy. Every instinct screamed at me to panic, to run, to give in to the terror. But I thought instead about Henry dancing with me on our wedding night, about my daughter's first laugh. I'd forgotten I had a daughter until that moment. How long had I been forgetting things? About sunrise over the mountains and the taste of my grandmother's cornbread and the feeling of grass beneath bare feet in summer. I thought about life, real life. Not the pale, fearful existence I'd been living for 20 years, but actual, vibrant, messy, beautiful life. And the cold retreated. Just an inch. But an inch was enough. I surged forward, dragging the stone and the tendril with me. The thing in the center of the clearing howled, a sound that would have shattered glass if there'd been any around to break. 3 feet from the final position. 2 feet. 1. I threw myself forward with the last of my strength and slammed the stone into place. The effect was instantaneous. The red light from the cracks in the ground blazed up like a pillar of fire, engulfing the thing completely. The tendrils evaporated. The screaming cut off mid-shriek. And then, with a sound like reality itself, sighing in relief, the light collapsed inward, taking the darkness with it. The ground sealed itself. The cracks vanished. The depression where the grave had been filled in until the clearing looked as though it had never been disturbed. Silence. Blessed, empty silence. I lay in the mud, gasping for breath. My arm ached where the tendril had gripped it, but when I looked, there was no mark, no sign it had ever touched me. "Henry!" I called out weakly. "Here." He crawled over to me, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "Is it over?" "I think so." We lay there in the rain for a long moment, too exhausted to move, barely believing we were still alive. Finally, Henry spoke. "In the between, I met Catherine. She told me about the seal, about how every few generations someone would accidentally break it. The farm, when they built it, they dug the foundation and damaged one of the stones. That's when it got free the first time in over a century. And now it's sealed again. The stones are in place. The name has been spoken." He turned his head to look at me. "It should hold for another few hundred years, at least." "Should?" I asked. "Nothing's guaranteed, but we did what we could." He reached out and took my hand. "Amara, I need to tell you something." The tone of his voice made my chest tighten. "What?" "I can't stay." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean?" "I've been in the between for 20 years. My body, my real body, is gone. What you're seeing now, it's—" He struggled for words. "It's a projection, a temporary manifestation. Catherine helped me cross over for long enough to stop the thing, but I can't hold this form. I'm already starting to fade." I looked at him more closely. He was right. Around the edges, he was becoming translucent, like early morning mist beginning to burn off. "How long?" I whispered. "Minutes. Maybe an hour if I'm lucky." He squeezed my hand. "But I need you to know, these 20 years, even in that cold, dark place, I never forgot you. I never stopped hoping. And tonight, I gotta save you. That's more than most people get." Tears mixed with rain on my face. "It's not fair." "No," he agreed. "It's not. But it's what we have. We helped each other stand. My legs were shaky, but they held." We walked slowly back to the car, neither of us speaking. What was there to say? We'd been given a few stolen minutes, a brief epilogue to a story that had ended 20 years ago. At the car, Henry paused. "There's something else, something important." "What?" "You have a daughter." "Emily. She lives in Portland. You haven't spoken to her in 5 years." I felt a jolt of memory. Emily, yes, dark hair, quick laugh, studying to be a veterinarian. How had I forgotten her? "The thing," Henry explained. "When it was free, even partially, it was feeding on you, taking your memories, your connections, replacing them with isolation and fear. But now that it's sealed again, those memories will start coming back." "Emily," I repeated, tasting the name. God, how could I forget my own daughter? "Call her," Henry said. "Tomorrow. No, today. As soon as you get home. Rebuild what was taken from you." "I will." I was crying openly now. "I promise I will." Henry's form was definitely fading now. I could see the car through his chest. "I love you, Amara. I loved you when we were 19 and stupid. I loved you when we were 40 and thought we had forever. And I love you now, at the end." "I love you too," I managed to say. Always did. Even when I thought I'd killed you. Especially then. He smiled. That real smile. The one I'd fallen in love with. Then he leaned forward and kissed my forehead. His lips were cold but real, and I felt the kiss down to my soul. "Live," he whispered, "really live. For both of us." And then he was gone. Not dramatically, not in a flash of light or a gust of wind. He simply faded, like a dream you can't quite hold on to when you wake up. I stood alone in the rain next to my car in front of a cursed piece of land that had taken 20 years of my life. But I was alive. I was free. And somewhere in Portland, I had a daughter who probably thought I'd forgotten about her. I got in the car, started the engine, and drove home through the rain. Behind me, Miller's farm receded into darkness. The sealed clearing, the watching woods, the ancient evil now bound once more. I didn't look back. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Henry fading, or the thing with my face, or those hundreds of trapped souls in the void. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that went cold 3 times before I finally drank it, and I made a list. Things I need to do. Call Emily. Go through the house. Find the memories I lost. Talk to someone. Therapist? Priest? I don't know who you talk to after something like this. Figure out who I actually am. That last one seemed important. For 20 years, I'd been living as a ghost. A woman who went to the post office at the same time every day, who spoke to no one, who existed but didn't live. The thing had been feeding on me slowly, draining away everything that made me real. Now I had to figure out who Amara actually was, beneath all that loss. As dawn broke, pale and gray through my kitchen window, I picked up my phone. Emily's number was in my contacts. My thumb hovered over it for a full minute before I found the courage to press call. It rang 4 times. I almost hung up. Then, hello? Her voice. God, her voice. How had I lived 5 years without hearing it? Emily? My voice cracked. It's Mom. Silence. Long enough that I thought she might have hung up. Mom? She sounded shocked. Is everything okay? Are you hurt? No, I stopped. How did I answer that? I'm fine. I just spent the night fighting a demon that wore my face. I'm okay. I wanted to call. I wanted to hear your voice. It's been 5 years, Mom. Her voice was careful, controlled. 5 years since the funeral. 5 years since you told me you needed to be alone. 5 years since... Funeral. The word didn't make sense. What funeral? Another pause. Dad's funeral. After they found the remains at Miller's farm. My blood turned to ice. What? 3 months ago. The county was doing some kind of environmental survey and they found... Oh God, Mom. Do we have to do this over the phone? I thought you knew. I thought that's why you weren't returning my calls. Found his remains 3 months ago. But Henry had been in the between. The thing had taken him. So what had they found? Emily, I need to see you. Is there any way you could come here? To the house? I don't know, Mom. I have work and... Please. I'd never begged before. Not like this. Please, honey. I know I don't deserve it. I know I've been... gone. But I'm back now. And I need to see you. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Deciding. This weekend, she finally said. I can drive up on Saturday. But Mom, if this is some kind of... If you're not ready to actually talk, to actually be present... I am, I interrupted. I promise. I'm ready. Okay. She didn't sound convinced. Okay, Saturday, I'll text you when I leave Portland. Emily? Yeah. I love you. I'm sorry I forgot how to show it. Her voice softened just a little. I love you too, Mom. I'll see you Saturday. The call ended, and I sat there staring at my phone, trying to process what she'd said. They'd found remains. Henry's remains. 3 months ago. But Henry had been with me last night. had helped me seal the thing, had kissed my forehead before fading away. Unless... I stood up so fast my chair fell over. The attic. Henry had said Catherine's diary was in the attic. If I could find it, maybe it would have answers. Maybe it would explain what was real and what wasn't. The attic stairs creaked as I climbed them. I hadn't been up here in years, not since that one time when I'd felt the overwhelming dread. Now, with morning light filtering through the small window, it seemed less threatening, just a dusty space filled with boxes and old furniture. I found the diary behind the insulation, exactly where Henry said it would be. A small, leather-bound book, water-stained and moldy. Catherine Brennan's name was inscribed on the inside cover in careful cursive. I sat down on a dusty trunk and began to read. September 3rd, 1983. Something is wrong with the woods. I've lived here for 12 years, and I've never felt afraid before, but lately I hear digging at night, scratching beneath the house, and there are symbols appearing on trees at the edge of my property. Old symbols, the kind that make your eyes hurt to look at. I flip through pages, months of entries documenting Catherine's growing paranoia and fear. Then, November 15th, 1983. I saw it tonight. The thing in the woods. It has no face, but it sees me. It knows me. It's been studying me, learning how I move, how I speak. I understand now what it wants. It wants to be me. It wants to wear me like a coat and walk in the world. The old seal is broken. The stones have shifted. It's getting stronger. I tried to run, but where would I go? This thing, whatever it is, it's bound to this land. If I leave, someone else will come. Someone else will be taken. So I'm going to try to fix the seal. I've been researching. There are ways. Names have power over old things. If I can learn its true name. The entries stopped there. The rest of the pages were blank, except for the very last one. November 23rd, 1983. It's too late. It's wearing me now. I'm in the between. That's what the old stories call it. The space between waking and sleeping, living and dying. I can see the real world, but I can't touch it, can't change it. If anyone finds this, the seal must be restored. 4 stones, 4 directions, and the name is, the entry ended mid-sentence. Whatever she'd been about to write, she never finished, but she had finished it. Somehow, from the between, Catherine had helped Henry, and Henry had helped me. They'd both known the name would be the key. My grandmother's gift, passed down through generations, had saved me. I closed the diary and looked around the attic. How much of my memory was real? Had Henry really been here last night? Or had I dreamed it? I was about to leave the attic when I noticed something I'd missed before. On the floorboards near where I'd found the diary, there were scratches. Fresh scratches. The wood was lighter where it had been scraped away. Kneeling down, I ran my fingers over them. They formed words. Not alone, check basement Saturday, coming. My heart started hammering. The handwriting, if you could call scratches in wood handwriting, looked frantic, desperate. And that last line. Saturday. The day Emily was coming. I practically flew down the attic stairs through the house to the basement door. I hadn't opened it in, God, how long? Years? The thing had been feeding on me, making me forget, making me avoid certain places. The basement was one of those places. My hand shook as I turned the knob. The door stuck, swollen from moisture, and I had to throw my shoulder against it. It burst open, and a wave of cold, damp air hit me in the face. The smell. Oh God, the smell. Not decay, exactly. Worse. Like earth that had never seen sunlight, like the breath of something that shouldn't breathe. I flicked the light switch. Nothing. The bulb must have burned out years ago. I went back to the kitchen, grabbed my flashlight, and returned to the gaping doorway. The wooden stairs groaned under my weight as I descended. Each step felt like a mistake. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, to run, to get out of this house and never come back. But Emily was coming Saturday, and something in the attic had warned me. The basement was larger than I remembered. How was that possible? The walls seemed to extend beyond where the house's foundation should end. My flashlight beam swept across old furniture, stacked boxes, a washer and dryer I'd forgotten we owned. Then I saw the dirt. In the far corner, the concrete floor had been torn up. Beneath it was earth, raw, dark earth that looked like it had been recently disturbed. And in that earth, there was another hole. Someone, or something, had been digging. I approached slowly, my flashlight trained on the opening. It was maybe 3 feet across, descending at an angle into darkness. At the edge, there were claw marks in the packed dirt. A sound came from the hole, faint, rhythmic. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Something was still down there, still digging. Hello? My voice sounded small and foolish. The scratching stopped. In the silence that followed, I heard something else. Breathing. Heavy, wet breathing that echoed up from the darkness below. Then a voice. Weak, female, familiar. Mom? Every drop of blood in my body turned to ice. Emily? I whispered. That's not possible. You're in Portland. I just talked to you. Please, the voice said, and it was definitely Emily's voice. Please help me. It took me 3 months ago, right after they found Dad's body. It's been keeping me down here. It said it needed me for something. It said, stop. I backed away from the hole. You're not Emily. Emily is in Portland. She's coming Saturday. Silence. Then laughter, cold, cruel laughter that echoed wrong in the confined space. You're smarter than the others, a different voice said. Not Emily's. Not anyone's. Catherine fell for it. Henry too. But you question. What are you? I demanded, fighting to keep my voice steady. Did you really think sealing 4 stones would end something that's been here since before humans gave names to things? The voice shifted, became multiple voices speaking in unison. You closed one door. But this house has so many doors. The breathing grew louder, closer. Something was climbing up through the tunnel. I ran, up the basement stairs, through the kitchen, heading for the front door. But when I reached it, I stopped cold. There was someone on my porch, a woman, standing perfectly still, staring at the door. At me. She looked exactly like me. Same age, same clothes, same everything. Like looking in a mirror, except this reflection wasn't copying my movements. It smiled. Last night was a test, it said, its voice muffled through the door, to see if you were strong enough, smart enough. The seal at Miller's farm was real. You did close that door. But the thing you trapped there, that was just one of us, one small piece. I backed away from the door. How many of you are there? We are legion. We are the spaces between. We've been here longer than your species and will be here long after. The not me pressed its hand against the door glass. Your grandmother knew. That's why she taught you the name, but she only knew one name. We have many. Behind me, I heard the basement door slam open. The wet breathing was closer now, filling the hallway. I was trapped between 2 of them. What do you want? I asked, my back pressed against the wall. What we've always wanted, both voices said in perfect unison, to cross over completely, to take root in this world. And you, Amara, you're going to help us. Never. You don't have a choice. When you buried the thing wearing Henry's skin, you created a bond, a doorway. And tonight, on the 20th anniversary, that doorway stands wide open. The not me outside tilted its head. Emily arrives Saturday, but something else arrives tonight. From the basement, something emerged into the hallway. I couldn't look directly at it. My eyes slid away every time I tried, but I could see its shadow on the wall. Too many limbs, too many angles. "Midnight," the not-me said. "That's when the transfer completes. That's when you step into the between, and we step fully into here. Unless. Unless what? Unless you can close the doorway you opened. But that requires something you don't have." "What?" Both versions laughed. "Henry's real body. The one they found at Miller's farm. The one they cremated 3 months ago." My mind raced. They'd cremated him. The remains were gone. There was no body to use for any kind of ritual or sealing. "You're lying," I said. "There has to be another way." "There is," the not-me outside admitted, "but you won't like it. Tell me. You can become the seal. Offer yourself completely. Body, mind, and soul. Root yourself to this land the way the old guardians did. Become the boundary between us and the world." It paused. "But that's not really living, is it? That's choosing to be a prisoner forever." The thing from the basement moved closer. I could feel its wrongness pressing against reality itself. "Or," a third voice said. I spun around. Standing in my living room, looking solid and real, was Henry. But not the Henry from last night. This Henry was younger, wearing the clothes he'd worn the night he disappeared. "Or," he repeated, "you can let me help you finish what we started." "You're not real," I said. "You're another one of them." "Am I?" He moved toward me, and unlike the other things, when I looked at him, my eyes didn't slide away. "Think Amara." Last night, did I really fade? Or did you just stop being able to see me? I thought back. The rain, the darkness, Henry becoming translucent. But had he actually disappeared, or had I just assumed? "The between isn't a place," Henry said. "It's a state, a frequency. I'm here. I've always been here. You just couldn't perceive me because the thing was blocking your sight." "Lies," both other voices hissed. "Then ask me something only the real Henry would know," he said calmly. "Something these things couldn't have learned from watching you." My mind raced. What was private enough? What had I never spoken aloud, never written down? "Our first date," I said. "What did you say to me when you walked me home?" Henry smiled. "I didn't say anything. I was too nervous. But you said, 'If you don't kiss me right now, I'm going to think you're scared of me.' So I kissed you, and then you said, 'That's more like it,'" I finished, tears springing to my eyes. "Oh God, Henry, you're really here. I never left. I've been trying to reach you for 3 months, ever since they found my body and broke whatever spell was keeping me hidden." He held out his hand. "But we don't have much time. They're right about midnight. That's when the door you created opens fully. How do we close it? We go to Miller's farm, to where you buried me, and we finish the ceiling, not with stones, but with truth." The not-me outside laughed. "You can't get past us." "Watch me," Henry said. He moved toward the front door, and as he did, he seemed to solidify, become more real. The not-me outside stumbled backward, its face showing something like fear. "How?" it started. "I've been dead for 20 years, Henry said. "I'm not scared of you anymore. Fear is what gives you power, and I have no fear left." He opened the door, and the not-me outside scattered like smoke and wind. Behind us, the thing from the basement shrieked, a sound that shattered my coffee cup on the counter and cracked the kitchen window. "Run!" Henry grabbed my hand, and we bolted through the open door. My car keys were still in my pocket from last night. We jumped into the sedan, and I gunned the engine. In my rearview mirror, I saw the house. Every window had something looking out. Dozens of faces, all pressing against the glass. Some I recognized. Neighbors I'd seen in passing. People from town. Others were strangers. How long had they been replaced? How many of these things were walking around? Don't think about it, Henry said, reading my expression. Right now, we focus on closing your door. Then we can worry about the rest. But if there are dozens of them, hundreds, one problem at a time, Amara. I drove like a woman possessed, taking corners too fast, running stop signs. Behind us, I swear I saw shapes following, keeping pace with the car despite us doing 60 in a residential zone. What's the plan? I asked. You said we need truth. What does that mean? My car keys were still in my pocket from last night. We jumped into the sedan and I gunned the engine. In my rearview mirror, I saw the house. Every window had something looking out. Dozens of faces all pressing against the glass. Some I recognized. Neighbors I'd seen in passing, people from town. Others were strangers. How long had they been replaced? How many of these things were walking around? Don't think about it, Henry said, reading my expression. Right now, we focus on closing your door. Then we can worry about the rest. But if there are dozens of them, hundreds, one problem at a time, Amara. I drove like a woman possessed, taking corners too fast, running stop signs. Behind us, I swear I saw shapes following, keeping pace with the car despite us doing 60 in a residential zone. What's the plan? I asked. You said we need truth. What does that mean? When you buried me, or what you thought was me, you believed you were burying your guilt, your shame, the thing you could never take back. Henry looked at me. But that's not the truth. The truth is, you were protecting yourself from something evil. You were surviving. I don't understand how that closes the door. The door exists because of a lie, a false belief. You've been carrying the weight of murder for 20 years, and that weight, that guilt, it's what they've been feeding on. It's what gave them the anchor point to attach to you. He pointed ahead. Turn here. I swerved onto the old farm road. So what? I just forgive myself, and the door closes. Not just forgive yourself. Accept the truth. Really accept it down to your bones. You didn't kill me, Amara. You never did. But I swung the shovel. I felt it connect. I saw you fall. You saw what it wanted you to see. What you hit was already a shell, already empty. The real me was already gone, pulled into the between the moment I touched whatever it was I dug up. The car bounced along the rutted driveway. Miller's farm loomed ahead, dark against the cloudy sky. It was only 6 p.m., but it felt like midnight already. How much time do we have? I asked. Henry checked his wrist, though he wasn't wearing a watch. 5 hours, maybe less. Time moves differently for me now. We parked and got out. The clearing looked different in daylight, smaller, less threatening. The 4 stones were still in place, exactly where we'd positioned them last night. But in the center, where the grave had been, the ground was disturbed again. No, I breathed. We sealed it. We spoke the name. You sealed one of them, Henry corrected, but your door is separate. Personal. Come on. We approached the depression. This time there was no hole, but the earth looked wrong. Too dark, too loose, like it was breathing. Kneel down, Henry instructed. Put your hands on the ground. Henry, I don't... Trust me. Please. I knelt, pressing my palms into the cold earth. The moment I made contact, I felt it. A connection, a thread running from me through the soil, down into somewhere deep and dark. Feel that? Henry knelt beside me. That's your guilt, your shame. It's been feeding into this spot for 20 years, nourishing them, giving them strength. How do I break it? Tell the truth. Out loud, say what really happened. I closed my eyes, feeling the earth beneath my hands, feeling the connection, and I spoke. I didn't kill my husband. The words felt strange, wrong. I defended myself against something evil, something that wore his face but wasn't him. The earth beneath my hands warmed slightly. I've been carrying guilt that doesn't belong to me. I've been letting it eat me alive, isolate me, destroy my relationships. My voice grew stronger. But it wasn't my fault. It was never my fault. The ground began to tremble. I forgive myself. Tears streamed down my face. For believing the lie. For losing 20 years. For forgetting my daughter. I forgive myself. A sound erupted from beneath us. Not quite a scream, not quite thunder. The thread I'd felt, that connection running from me into the darkness, suddenly snapped. I gasped as I felt it break, felt 20 years of accumulated guilt and pain suddenly release. The ground stopped trembling. The darkness in the earth faded, becoming normal soil again. "Is it done?" I asked, my voice shaking. Henry smiled. "Look." I looked at my hands. They were glowing. Not bright, just a soft luminescence, like moonlight on water. As I watched, the glow spread up my arms across my body. I felt lighter, clearer. Like I'd been walking around in fog for 2 decades and someone had finally turned on the sun. "The door's closed," Henry said. "You're free." "But what about the others? The things in the house? The not-me's?" "Without your door, they have no anchor point here. They'll fade. Go back to the between. It might take days or weeks, but they'll go." He stood, helping me to my feet. "You did it, Amara. You saved yourself." I looked at him, really looked at him. The glow around my hands was reflecting in his form, and I realized something. "You're fading again," I said softly. "I know." "But you said last night was a test. You said you were really here." "I am really here. But here, for me, doesn't mean solid, doesn't mean permanent." He touched my face, and I felt it, cold but real. "I came back to help you, to make sure you escaped. That was always the mission. So this is really goodbye. Not goodbye. I'll still be here, in the between, but closer now. You might feel me sometimes, on quiet nights, in memories that make you smile." He leaned forward and kissed my forehead, just like last night. "Take care of Emily. Rebuild your life. Actually live it this time." "I will," I promised. "I swear I will." "And Amara? One more thing." "What?" "Check the attic again. There's a box, my old research notes. You'll want to read them. There are things you need to know. Things about your grandmother's people, about why they chose this land to seal the old things away." "Why?" "What's in the notes?" But Henry was already fading, his form becoming transparent in the dying light. "Read the notes," his voice echoed, "and then call Emily. Tell her everything. She deserves to know. She deserves—" He was gone. I stood alone in the clearing as the sun finally broke through the clouds, painting Miller's farm in shades of gold and amber. The 4 stones stood silent, keeping their eternal watch, and somewhere beneath the earth, ancient things slept once more. But for how long?